Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill spent our Sunday morning watching the Michigan spring game, airing on the Big Ten Network. Where I want to start is I kind of feel a little bit hoodwinked. Coming out of the spring game on Saturday afternoon last weekend, all we heard about was the offense stinks. The offensive line can't pass protect. And look, was it perfect from the offense? No, absolutely not. I think we all knew it wasn't going to be perfect, especially when you have a true freshman quarterback, redshirt freshman Jaden Davis. Much better than what I thought, specifically on the offensive line and really specifically from Bryce Underwood. Want to get into some of the things that stood out, some of the players that stood out, and what I would say is I would encourage Michigan fans, like, you'll be able to find this game on YouTube. Like, go watch it and evaluate it for yourself. And it's not me getting at the Michigan beat writers, but I thought there was a really unnecessary negative spin on the offense's performance that I don't think was necessarily all that accurate. We'll get into some of the names that stood out to us before we get into it, as always to the Michigan fans, of which I'm sure many are listening to this, having just watched the game as well. Would love to hear your takeaways as well. As always, appreciate you guys rocking with it. The Michigan fans, the amount of support y'all have shown the fellas has been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, look, I think we're going to talk plenty of Bryce Underwood. I think I want to start with the offensive line play, which was really a pleasant surprise for me. I want to specifically start at the offensive tackle spot. Dill, coming out of watching that spring game, you got four tackles that are kind of vying for those two starting spots. How would you stack those four tackles coming out of spring here?
Right now, I would say it's pretty clear Evan Lincoln, Andrew Sprague, because I thought those two played very well. Like, I don't get that. Again, you said it, like the reports out of the beat reporters and some of the Michigan people who are watching, like, basically said, "Oh, these tackles are horrible, and we're not going to be we need to be in the portal really hard." I do not agree with that at all. I thought for the most part, Evan Lincoln, Andrew Sprague, especially, played really well. And my third guy is probably
Abs.
Babalola. And you certainly
Yeah.
saw some freshmen, not errors, but just like getting blown off the ball a little bit, guys getting into a bull rush on him. But he's certainly the athlete. And if he comes along, I think you feel comfortable with him as a depth tackle. So I don't really get the hate on Evan Lincoln and Andrew Sprague. I thought they both looked really
And Dill, here's like my take on it is there's a lot of people surrounding the Michigan program who report on the Michigan program. Like, we got to go to the portal and get a tackle. What tackle in the portal the last week and a half comes in and starts on this Michigan team? Like, maybe Joe Cotton from South Dakota, but after buzzing Joe Cotton and then watching this spring game, like, I don't know if Joe Cotton comes in missing all his spring practice and starts for this Michigan team in 2025. And Dill, like, Evan Link going up against guys like TJ Guy, like some of the better edge rushers that you'll see in the Big Ten, I thought looked pretty dang well. And it's not like I'm getting up here and saying he's going to be a first team All American guy, top 10 NFL draft pick. I saw a very serviceable tackle in the Big Ten. And what's important to note in this conversation, it's not like Evan Link's a fifth year guy.
well.
Like, he's
I
coming
saw a
off.
lot of development. I think that's kind of
Yes,
where you're going.
he's
Like,
getting
he
better.
looked a lot better to me. He looked more comfortable. He's
Agreed.
moving his feet a little bit better. Like, he looked a lot better than he did last year. Because certainly last year, yeah, there were some really negative or not negative, but just like not great moments from Evan Link.
Agreed.
The progress is really does feel like it's there for him.
Yeah, I mean, they had a really bad Texas game week 2 of the season. It was bad. And then I thought just kind of steadily got better. Offensive line, and I think what happened is, like, you saw that first rep of the game, Ben Roebuck just getting beat clean by Rayshon Benny for a sack, and like that kind of gets burned in your mind. Ben Roebuck's going to be in the 3 deep. Like, that's a 3 deep offensive lineman, with all due respect to Ben Roebuck, going up against one of the better D tackles that you'll see in the Big Ten this year. That's just part of the spring game, man. Yeah, you have 1s, 2s, and 3s all working together. Last note I'll make: this offensive line's big and physical, and like, I thought they were doing a great job resetting the line of scrimmage in the run game. Like, this run game is going to be better for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I think you have a massive upgrade at the running back position. Like, Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes, those guys, it's one of the better running back duos you see in the country. And Justice Haynes, man, looked, I thought, phenomenal for Michigan this afternoon, or in the spring game, you might say. Dill, yeah, Bryce Underwood, who's a tremendous athlete. They didn't really let him keep the ball on some read options. You'll see that in the 2025 year. And I think this offensive line just looked a little bit more physically imposing than we saw last year as well. That's to me story like one. Can we give Bryce Underwood a run game? Like at the end of the day, we're bringing in Bryce Underwood and Chip Lindsey, and we want to attack vertically down the field, of which we saw Michigan try to do in that spring game a lot. We're still Michigan. Like we still want to run the football and play good defense, and I do think this run game dramatically better
And that's
than it
going to
will
be
be.
an underrated storyline. Not just the offensive line, but the running back play should be
Justice
so much
Haynes,
better. And you kind
dude.
of saw in the draft why Michigan maybe didn't have a great rushing game. And again, the offensive line certainly wasn't perfect, but they did not have good enough running backs, I don't think. Claude Mullings, again, he's got things you like, but just like that ability to be patient and set your
Well,
block up
here's
and read
here's here.
holes. Like,
I love Club Mullings. You ain't gonna see me say a negative thing about Club Mullings. You have more complete running backs this year than you had last year. Like Club Mullings was your bruising running back, but didn't have a ton of juice at the second level. And Dono Edwards, a ton of juice at the second level, but really struggled between the tackles. Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes like the best of both worlds. Like they can run between the tackles. Justice Haynes runs physical, man. But then you saw, hey, when I get to the second level, get some space, I can make people miss and be explosive too. The run game is going to be really good. Bryce Underwood's performance, Dill, I thought it was really good for a kid that should still be in high school. Missed that throw in the fourth quarter to Channing Goodwin. That should have been a touchdown. Just too much arm strength there. Dill threw a lot of good balls. I mean, threw a dot to Jamar Broder off the sideline that probably should have been caught. The ball looks different coming out of his hands, and it's very clear to me how much he opens up this offense. Like you can get him outside the pocket, let him be an athlete. You can ask him to throw strikes to the boundary. You can ask him to push it down the field. Like last year, I mean, look, we didn't really have the ability to attack the boundary because the quarterbacks and their ability to push the ball wasn't good enough. The ball looks different coming out of this kid's hands, and I was pleasantly surprised with how well he managed the offense during that spring game.
yeah, I thought again, those some of those like even just through the middle, I thought one in the traffic to Hoffman, like a really good throw. And you need to have an arm and
Juice,
you
man.
need to be able to be
Juice.
very accurate. Like that's the type of ball again Michigan didn't have. But I think the biggest thing is you said it, just being able to open the offense up and especially being able to get some things going outside of the pocket, rolling quarterbacks out, sprinting them out. That wasn't something in Michigan's bag last year. Because again, like Orgy could have done it from an athletic standpoint, he could not do it from a throwing standpoint. And then the opposite end, Davis Warren really maybe could have done it a little bit through the throwing standpoint, really couldn't do it from an athletic standpoint. So again, you just look, I just think you can run a more complete offense. That was a huge issue for Michigan
And
at the end of the day last year, is not being able to run that much. It was very,
I
very bad.
I would like to see using Bryce outside. That's where he seemed very comfortable, and it's a very good way to slow the game down for a young quarterback. Like get him out in space, let him process with less traffic around him. I'm guessing because of that skill set, you're going to see Chip Lindsey go to that a little bit more.
And help your tackles, being able to
Yeah,
again move the pocket, and not in the way that like again, I don't feel like Michigan's tackles are a liability, but just doing more to help your tackles. Where again, if you can move the pocket, you just force defensive ends
yeah,
and
Dylan.
defensive linemen to play a little bit different.
And here's one more thing. Like you run the football better, you're putting your tackles in less bad situations. Like Michigan with like the limit we had pushing the ball vertically down the field made it so hard for us to run the football. Like how many times were we in like these 3rd and 7 situations where these edge rushers just tee off and get after the passer with really not worrying about your quarterback getting outside the pocket and Davis Warren. There's a lot of things going into 2025 that will help this offensive line in the 2025 year, specifically in pass pro. Maybe the one question mark, and I think is really fair, is like, do we have enough around at the pass catcher positions? Like there were a lot of plays where you felt like the pass catchers could go make a play for the quarterback, and maybe that didn't happen. Jalen Hoffman's going to play. Dill, it feels different from like walk on guy in the 3 deep that stands out in the spring game. Like we saw that from Peyton O'Leary a couple of years ago, and I think we all kind of knew like we're really sure Peyton Leary was going to Peyton O'Leary was going to be the guy. Like Jalen Hoffman's going to play because he can do the stuff that Max Bredesen did for Michigan last year, but gives you like a legitimate difference maker as a pass catcher. Tremendous hands in traffic, really good body control adjusting the footballs. Like, this kid just seems like a playmaker in some big moments too. I think he's going to play for Michigan in 2025.
Yeah, and again, that's a very loaded room, and Hogan Hansen wasn't playing in that spring game, which again, he's like one of those guys that throw into the end zone from Bryce Underwood. Like if that's Hogan
Yeah.
Hansen, you'd certainly like to think that's a touchdown because that's
Yep.
like where
Agreed.
I imagine he's kind of going to work a lot on like that jumbo slot kind of role. I feel like that's going to kind of be his for this season. So again, like that type of throw, I wish we kind of got to see the better playmakers, let's say, with
Okay.
Bryce
That's,
Underwood. Like, I wish Donovan McCulley was paired up with Bryce Underwood because that
well,
Donovan McCulley, you kind of step away, and from everything you've heard, is the guy for Michigan this year. He will be the guy to be counted on. You certainly wish you got to see more of Klein and Hogan
well,
Hansen.
that's the other important conversation to have here is like those guys played maybe 2 drives. Like, I think Justice Haynes had 2 drives, but then kind of gave him the rest of the day off. Marlon Klein, I think, only played 1. Donovan McCulley, I think, only played 2. Fred Moore and Samaj Morgan didn't get much burn either. Like, the spring game, especially from the second quarter on, was much more like, hey, let's get Andrew Marsh some burn. Let's get some of the young guys, Jamar Broder, some burn. You
And
can
that's probably that you can see why Michigan's probably gonna have to recruit that position a little bit better,
agreed,
frankly. Because
agreed.
again, like you probably want more like and we're kind of you make the excuse, yeah, he wasn't exactly working with the top end of what Michigan has to offer as a from the playmaker standpoint. But again, you'd probably like to see like again some of those drops and Jamar Broder, you'd like to see him make that play because
Yes.
that's kind of what you recruited that type of body in into the room make. And it wasn't an easy catch for sure. The fade wasn't an easy catch either, but you'd like to see him be able to make those. So
Yeah,
that's again,
especially
that's going to be that thing. Like you look, can Michigan fill that skill position pipeline up a little bit more? Because that's probably the one thing you probably didn't love from the spring game. If
well,
I
yeah, and you could say that, and I think it's a very fair criticism to have. But I think you can also, on the flip side, say like the guys who are going to be making the plays for Michigan in 2025 did not play much in the spring game.
well,
They
definitely,
should.
but again, that's
So
where you got to be able to recruit it and have guys coming up through that make those plays a little more often.
okay. Defense. Dill, you have in we've heard this all year from our coming out of spring. It's just like a deeper unit, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, you just have a lot of guys that can make plays. Now, you saw a lot of different personnel groupings too. Like you saw a lot of 5-man fronts, and I think Michigan's going to go to that more. Go back to the 2023 season. Michigan went to a lot of 5-man fronts. Now, why could Michigan do that in the 2023 season? Because they were deep on the defensive line. You didn't see it as much in 2024 because you weren't as deep. I mean, you got a lot of defensive linemen that you have a lot of confidence can play. Trey Williams seems to be a massive hit in the portal. Like I love what Trey Williams can bring. But the bigger storyline for me was some of the young guys. I want to start with Dominic Nichols. He's gonna be the guy. Like again, Derek Moore, TJ Guy, those are your starting edge rushers in 2024 or 2025, no question about it. Dom Nichols, he's probably your edge rusher 3 at this point heading into fall camp.
I certainly thought so because Cam Brand, I don't want to like he didn't
He's
play
good.
in this game, and
Yeah.
I think you feel really good about your 2 deep at that edge spot.
Yeah.
Dominic Nichols, yeah, that him flashing the way he did makes you feel like, oh, we have another. Again, you talk about like kind of refilling the pipeline and like,
Yeah.
okay, you have your next guy, if you will, when TJ Moore and Derek Guy leave, and presumably Derek Moore is probably a first round pick. I think Dominic Nichols was playing like he has that potential to kind of slide in and where you don't miss a beat. Like you don't
And
steal
I'm not even trying to start talking about 2026. Like to me, that's a guy that's gonna play 20 to 30 snaps a game and have an impact.
100%.
You look at the version of Michigan in 2023 that won a national championship, it was like, hey, you got, whoever it was, Braden McGregor and Jalen Harrell. And then when they're coming off the field, it's Josiah Stewart and Derek Moore. Like that's I don't know if it's necessarily that level, but we're getting back to that going into 2025.
It definitely is in the edge room right now. I feel really good about where the edge room is,
Yeah.
especially because Lugard played really good too. And I mean,
Yeah.
again, he was kind of like didn't come in physically even close to being ready necessarily as a true
Yeah.
freshman, but man, you saw the way he kind of got into guys and the way he was able to use bull rushes. You knew he had like premier length and kind of athleticism. Was he going to be strong enough? I felt like he did a lot of things that make me think he can be into the mix, if you will. Again, he's not going
Yes.
to play as much as Nichols and Brand, I don't think. But again, you talk about having that premier depth and being able to move guys around. Lugard, I thought, played really well from that edge.
And I don't, not to like roster dump on everybody, but like Manuel Beagle, he looks like he's coming along. David
He's a fun one.
Pele. Like, look, I don't know if a ton of these guys are going to play because Michigan's a lot deeper than they were. Those guys are coming along nicely. And then I'll just shout out Nathaniel Marshall. Like, I think he's going to come in and be a force as a freshman. I don't know what it's going to look like necessarily. I feel very confident that he's going to play. Jay-Sean Barham kind of getting mixed and matched a little bit. Didn't see a ton of him, rightfully so. We don't need to see a ton of him. To me, it's like you got to figure out a way to get Cole Sullivan on the football field. Whether that's putting Jay-Sean Barham coming off the edge a little bit more. Dylan, here's something, excuse me, that kind of came to my mind is Michigan's recruited kind of a different style of linebacker over the last couple of cycles, like better athletes, better in space. Look, do you see Michigan in some of these games, especially in the Big Ten, maybe going to some more 3 linebacker sets? Because I look at it and say, when you're approaching the defense from how do we get our best 11 on the football field, like Ernest Hausman and Jay-Sean Barham are certainly 2 of our best 11. I think you could make the argument that Cole Sullivan's probably in the top 11 as well. How do we get him on the field? And now you can, I think, because they're better athletes and they can operate in coverage as well. Very interested to see what the personnel groupings look like for Wink Martindale. I feel like it's a stocked pantry cupboard, if you will, for Wink Martindale to mix and match.
In the linebacker room is exciting, but then you look in like kind of who you'd be taking off. It'd be probably that nickel spot. And
Tevis,
he's
awesome.
Look really good. So
yeah,
again, that'll be interesting, and it'll probably be a big game to game, just like it kind of was last year. I mean, sometimes they played 5 down, and sometimes they played 4 down.
Look, that's important. Sorry to cut you off, because look at the landscape of the Big Ten. Like you one Saturday, you might be going to Kinnick Stadium playing the Iowa Hawkeyes, who are just going to run 12 personnel and try to run the football over you. Maybe you go more 3 linebacker sets. Then the next day you're going out to Autzen Stadium or something, playing Oregon. And then you're probably going to play a little bit more at the nickel. But we have that versatility to kind of maneuver in a Big Ten conference that's super diverse in the kind of offenses that you're going to see. Going to the back end, Dill, Travis Metcalf was the big winner for me, man. I mean, I don't know how it's going to look, because you can play safety, he can play nickel. Mason Curtis I don't think played in the game, but we know Mason Curtis can play. It's a really deep unit, and again, Lamar Morgan, Wink Martindale, you're just trying to figure out like what our best.
In Mason Curtis, I mean, he was playing safety, it looked like, for the most part when he was on the field, at least from what I saw. And yeah, that does feel like the natural fit for him, like being that big at the nickel spot. Like, again, you got to be able to get in and out of breaks really quickly. And not to say Mason Curtis can't, but that being what is he, almost 6'5" now?
6'5", he's all 6'5".
That's not really a premier nickel.
Well, but you saw Michigan do that last year with Makari Page, and like maybe
it did work.
Maybe there's some situations where that's where you want. Like, say you play a team like Penn State with like this jumbo freak pass catcher with Tyler Warren. Like Mason Curtis might be,
and especially when you're working in zone. And Michigan, Makari Page was at that nickel spot. It was mostly working in zone, it felt like. So again, then you like Tevis, to me, more the natural nickel, if I were just to like judge who makes sense and can be a little more versatile at that spot. But that it will be the thing, because I mean, that's what we've talked about all year. And you had TJ Metcalf playing.
Well, here's one thing I think we learned is I think Zeke Berry is going to play corner. And I think you probably want him to play corner, right? I don't know if Josiah Edmond is quite there. I think he's still going to be a good football player, maybe not quite there. Though Shamari Earls, he looks like he looks like he's a senior in college. Like, that dude is about as developed as a freshman as I've seen. But you probably want to keep Zeke, and you want to keep Zeke at corner 1 because he showed you he can play really quality boundary cornerback. But I think it's secondly, like I left the spring game feeling more confident and comfortable with what we have at nickel. We'll see where Michigan decides to go. Regardless of that, we probably made a bigger deal of it than it needed to be. There's a lot of capable bodies and a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. And you feel like Wink Martindale has a better feel. Like last year was like more installing the defense and getting everybody to understand what we want to do. Now it's, all right, how do we put everybody in the best positions possible? Like whether that's Jay-Sean Barham coming off the edge, whether that's Zeke playing boundary. Now we can get creative with our personnel groupings and kind of maximize what this defense can
and it was interesting for him to say what he said about kind of making the linebackers and the defensive ends the focal point of the defense, unlike last year where it was the Mason Graham and Kenny Grant show. So I'm kind of
Yeah, that's a
interested
good
to
point.
see how they use those guys and like, do they line up Derek Moore on the inside or Dominic Nichols on the inside? Guys who certainly have the physical ability to do it. I'm kind of interested to see how they use that position, especially in the pass rush, because that again, you kind of saw, you felt like you had four guys at the defensive end spot who all are really tough to keep off the field.
Yeah, and your linebackers can blitz. Like Jay Sean Barham, Cole Sullivan, they can get after the quarterback. It went a little longer than we thought, but wanted to hop on and Dill, like my main takeaway was just like the offense is not nearly as like dire as I think a lot of us kind of assume coming out of this, what we heard out of the spring game a week ago. Michigan fans, go watch it. Like go. In my opinion, like I would very much encourage Michigan fans to go watch it and make your own evaluation. I think you can come away with a much different picture of where this Michigan football team is. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.